We're gonna. I have to interrupt you there because we want to go to Lagos. Standing by is Gimba. Gimba.
Oh, Senator Sabi, what's the position of the Senate now that some irregularities have been discovered? Say, for instance, in the Power, Works and Housing budget, where at different pages, 120 million, 480 million, 288 million were budgeted for the purchase of utility vehicles. What's the position of the Senate on this?
Well, let me say one thing. The whole idea of a budget, like I said, is a process, and that's why we engage the MDAs. Now, we make our own due diligence, identify some of these areas, and we engage them. If they're able to give satisfactory answer that we are convinced, yes, on the need for some of these things, then we allow it in the final analysis to go. So that process is still ongoing, and I recall, I think the Senate Committee on Power, Steel and Metallurgy, of which I'm a member, we've asked this ministry to come back. And so it will be, more or less like, being too forward in saying that, oh, this is the position. I don't think we have a position yet. But one thing that we have as a position is that we're interested in having a budget that will meet the desire of the government in terms of the programs and projects that we want to give to Nigerians so that their life can be better. So whatever it is that fits into this definition, I want to assure you that that is what the Senate will stand for. We will definitely ensure that we remove duplications. We will ensure that there is matching in terms of what we are funding and what Nigerians want to see.
Because a lot of people are really concerned about this. Nigerians are asking the question that since 2016, when the issue of padding came up in our legislation, people had expected that by now that issue would have been resolved completely and we wouldn't have that kind of scenario in the 2018 budget. So what guarantees are there that even after the 2018 budget, that will not have
let me make one clarification here. Yeah, you see, like I always maintain, honestly, if we want to be sincere to ourselves, it's just maybe the word padding itself is sweet. And so we tend to hang on to it. And we are trying to force it into the lexicon. Because to me, as far as I'm concerned, there is no padding as far as this budget is concerned. The executive is supposed to bring an estimate. When you bring an estimate, it presupposes that you could make mistake. When they have that mistake, we on our own part, as senators, we're supposed to do due diligence on this budget. We're supposed to look at it thoroughly. And where we feel that these things will not meet the desired objective, it is in our power, based on the constitutional provision, to make amendments, to make insertions, to make adjustments here and there. And I think that is what the National Assembly is already doing by pointing these issues out. Now, why we decide to do this is so that Nigerians can see. Because if we don't, at the end of the day, it is the same National Assembly that will be blamed. So I think it's important to understand this fact, and we'll make sure that the same thoroughness you have seen so far in the first appraisal of what we have done, we continue until we are able to get a budget that will meet our desires.
Senator, how thorough would that be? Because there are those, the school of thought that believes that every year we have practically the same issues in the previous budget put back in the next budget for the next year. So, for instance, you see things like purchase of office equipment or repair of fixed assets, and then the next item is repair of office building. How thorough would that be?
Well, let's get one thing. Those are recurrent expenditure. I don't think if you see in a family budget going to the groceries year out, year in, I don't think you call that as too much, because families must eat. Now, when you have offices, offices must function. Office equipments will be used, and office equipments will break down. They must be maintained. Offices are being used. People go in and go out. They must have problems. They must be maintained. And so, remember, we have always said that Nigeria has a bad maintenance culture. So we must ensure that all we need to do is to make sure that when we make these provisions, they are actually utilized for the purpose for which they are meant for. And government, especially the executive, should begin to put in policies that will ensure that these things are properly utilized. And I think in credit to the Buhari administration, they have introduced what they call the efficiency unit in the Federal Ministry of Finance. And that efficiency unit is trying as much as possible to reduce those areas of duplication when it comes to the recurrent expenditure. And I think they've done quite tremendously well. And that's why, if you see, we have reduced the recurrent expenditure to the extent now that the capital has moved up to about 30%. So I think these are the issues.
Senator,
if
I may come in here before we go to break, I'm going to ask you a final question. And that is this issue of the budget going into the next year. What is it now? Now that we know that about 50% of capital expenditure is being paid to MDAs right now, what is left now? What's remaining on the table to ensure that the budget is ultimately passed?
Well, what is remaining now is that the interactions between the various subcommittees of the Senate vis-a-vis the National Assembly will definitely go on with the MDAs. In essence, the ministries, departments, and agencies will continue to appear before the National Assembly. But remember, this week we are going on recess. Nigerians, this is the holiday season, and definitely we are resuming next year. I presuppose around 16th of January. That's when we are coming back from the holidays. And within the context of the holidays, those who will still be able to be around committees definitely will continue to engage the MDAs. I don't think it's too much on us. We do that very often where we are on recess. We still have some needs to do some work. That will continue. But most importantly, we are expecting that the implementation of the 2017 budget will be fast-tracked so that we can see what has been implemented. Because the key issue here is that we have to roll over.
Senator, we're going to come back to you very soon. We're just going to go on break quickly. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.